Good afternoon. I am Vanessa Thomas with the 12 o'clock news on the street, 919 FM, and online Facebook and YouTube, sponsored by the Sea Champion. In the headlines, 9 more people succumbed to COVID-19, infections still high. Thousands ticketed for not wearing face mask or for wearing it incorrectly in public. Laramie Barrackport taxi drivers raised taxi fare, and internationally, COVID-19 pandemic was preventable, says a global report. And now the news in detail. The Ministry of Health has announced that 9 more people have died from COVID-19, the highest daily figure reported in one day in TNT. The victims were 3 elderly males, 3 elderly females, and 1 middle-aged female, all with pre-existing medical conditions. There were also 1 middle-aged male and 1 middle-aged female without any medical conditions. This has pushed deaths to 224. Meanwhile, 348 more people have contracted the virus from May 8th and May 10th, marking 13,802 confirmed infections locally. Active COVID cases now stand at 4,078. With these alarming figures, Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley is once again appealing to the public to adhere to the COVID-19 regulations.
And with respect to the population of Trinidad and Tobago in general, I just want our citizens to understand that this pandemic is not a joke. It is not something to play with. The worst outcome, which is getting more and more frequent in our population, is death. And in many instances, we are seeing now where that death is taking place within families in a situation that is quite tragic, more than one person. One person is too much in a family. Take it seriously. The things that have to be done, we've told that to you over and over and over and over. And each one of us, if we do those things, we will not only protect ourselves, but we'll protect other people. Because those who are being infected by other people. And if you are infectious, you will infect other people. So we are all interconnected. And it is not a respecter of race, creed, religion, class, political persuasion, or geography. You would have seen that is all over the country is exposed, and all the people are exposed. And now more than ever, we have to be careful because we're seeing more and more young people fall into it. When initially it was being said that it was the older people who had comorbidities, now we can virtually say it's everybody. Thankfully, there's hope on the horizon. We've started the vaccination program. Treat the vaccines as a response where there are benefits to be had. If you have good reason not to be vaccinated, that is understandable. The good reason being that you have medical conditions where the level of risk is too high, as told to you by your expert doctors. But the average citizen should take the opportunity to get vaccinated and give yourself that better chance to come out of a pandemic alive and well. That is our best chance. And we, at the level of the government, we are doing everything possible to get an adequate supply of vaccines, and we expect that our situation will improve in the days and weeks ahead. There's a lot of hesitancy in some quarter, and there are a lot of attempts to destroy your confidence in what you might be doing or what we are doing. I ask you to stay the course. We are ensuring that the best response from Trinidad and Tobago is the response that the government of Trinidad and Tobago will pursue. So let us do that together and try and come out of it alive together.
In other news, thousands of people have been ticketed for not wearing their face mask at all or for wearing it incorrectly in public. Yesterday, Police Commissioner Gary Griffith shared details of the numbers and said he is still getting reports of people still not adhering to COVID rules.
10,000 mark in the number of persons who have been issued tickets for failing to comply. That's the fixed penalties for not wearing masks. 732 persons have been arrested so far based on non-compliance, And we've been bombarded on a daily basis with reports coming to us of persons still involved in construction, in the marts being open, persons having parties, persons.
In other news, Digicel issues a release advising that the Experience Store and its head office, located at the Answer Center, 11C Maraval Road, Port of Spain, is closed today to facilitate deep cleaning and sanitization following confirmation that an employee has tested positive for COVID-19. The company said the employee, as well as the identified primary contacts, have been placed on mandatory quarantine. Digicel said it's working with the authorities on the necessary contact tracing and mitigation procedures. The company said the Experience Store will reopen on Friday. In more news, 2 taxi associations in South Trinidad have raised their taxi fares as they say stiffer COVID-19 restrictions have put them at a loss on their income. The taxi drivers say they continue to struggle with making ends meet since the virus entered the country more than 1 year ago. Drivers on that route say they now have no choice but to raise their fares. Customers traveling the Laramine and Barrackpore routes now have to pay $2 extra. Initially, taxis were allowed to operate at 50% capacity, but in June, the capacity was elevated to 75%. Due to the recent spike in COVID-19 infections, drivers are forced to revert to 50% capacity. Finally, on the international scene, the COVID-19 pandemic was preventable. This, according to an independent review panel. Set up by the World Health Organization, the panel said the combined response of the WHO and global governments was a toxic cocktail. The report said the WHO should have declared a global emergency earlier than it did, adding that without urgent change, the world remains vulnerable to another major disease outbreak. More than 3 million people around the world have now died of COVID, and more than 159 million have been infected. And that was the 12 o'clock news on the street, 919 FM, and online Facebook and YouTube, sponsored by the Sea Champion. Recapping the headlines. 9 more people succumbed to COVID-19, infections still high. Thousands ticketed for not wearing face masks or for wearing it incorrectly in public. Laramine Barrackpore taxi drivers raised taxi fare, and internationally, COVID-19 pandemic was preventable, says a global report. I am Vanessa Thomas. Good afternoon.